Hello everyone, and welcome to Hill Street. Today's story is The Neighborhood Creature. If you end up enjoying this story, please leave a like. And if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. And I just want to say, Happy Halloween. I know that Halloween is actually tomorrow, but I know a lot of places celebrate Halloween tonight. So if you're going out and going trick-or-treating, be safe. Or if you're going to any Halloween parties, be safe there as well. Because tonight is Devil's Night. So please, be safe. Have a great Halloween. Now, let's get to this nightmare. This is a recollection of events that happened to me and a few others about a year, maybe year and a half ago. I don't really care if you believe me or not. If I'm being honest, I just want to know exactly what I saw. This takes place in a suburban neighborhood that's rather well known for how safe it is. However, it is backed up to a canal system that has taken several lives. It has several parks, but one in particular is set up against the wall between the neighborhood and the canal. It has two large green belts in the front and in the back of it. The one in the back is the one next to the wall. The one in the front leads to a small parking lot. And on the sides of the park are houses that are, of course, also walled off. The back green field gives about 150 yards of space between the wall and the actual park. The park itself has a small kiddie basketball court with some playground equipment and a picnic area right in the middle. Thing to note is that the wall on the canal had two dim lights on each side, with two small tables under each light. However, both had a lot of small trees and bushes in front of said tables. Now, how all this started was me and my best friend, we'll call Kay. We were 15 and 16 at the time. We were bored, so we decided to head to the park that was in our neighborhood. We got there and just started talking about stuff that teenagers do. Mostly trash talk each other's taste in video games and girls. We spent a few minutes and kinda just zoned out for a while as we sat in the picnic area. I eventually see something from the corner of my eye. It looked like someone smaller crawling on the ground by the left light on the far wall. Now, I don't think it was a dog or cat, because if you've ever seen a person go on all fours and try to crawl around, you would know the difference. So, at first, I believed someone's kid must have gotten out and started playing a game in the park. Thinking this, I turned to Kay and say we should go help the kid out. However, my friend looked a little troubled and simply said no, and that we should wait. I will admit, I was a bit upset by this, as I felt like he was either being lazy or a coward. But nevertheless, we continued to look at the figure from a distance. Till I noticed this thing was bigger than a child. I didn't know how to explain it, but this thing looked like a man on the ground and looked like it was looking around at weird angles. Now thinking this was some junkie, I turned to Kay and say, "Dude, it's a junkie. We should get him out of the park and call the cops." Again, my friend showed the same hesitation and said the same thing as before. For those wondering why 16-year-old me thought we could take a drugged up junkie, Me and Kay were both big boys, with me being 6'2" and 200 pounds, and Kay at 6 foot and 260 pounds. Kay being a lineman for our high school football team, and me being a martial arts nut. I figured we could take one man. I began to get a tad annoyed again, so I pushed him to at least call the cops. Instead, he called his father, who was the president of our HOA. He said it was a coyote and we were just being dumb, so he hung up the phone. So now, we just looked back and continued to try and see if this apparent junkie was gonna make a charge at us or something. However, as we watched, it looked less and less human. Its head would turn in weird positions that, while possible, would be strange to see anyone do besides some kind of circus stretch man. At this point, me and Kay were just watching it till the thing stood up. Now, when it stood up, it became clear that this thing wasn't a person. It was at least 11, maybe 12 feet tall. Its head was small and beady, not like a human skull. Its body was skinny to the point it looked like its skin was just stretched on its bones, with little muscle definition left. Its arms were long enough to the point its hands were at its calves, and its hands were also elongated, with its fingers being longer looking, pointy at the ends. The reason we had such a good and yet poor view was because it was standing right in front of the light, so we could make out its outline without any real details over the distance. It stood up and again made the most bizarre and alien movements I've ever seen. The movements alone would be enough to unnerve someone, let alone the sight of whatever it was. I now look at Kay to see if he saw what I saw, and the fear on his face answered that question for me. We both sat there in silence as to not get attention from that thing. It would slightly move in and out of the small bushes and trees and move its head around in a strange and foreign manner. We must have sat there for 30, maybe 40 minutes, but it honestly felt like an eternity. We were both quietly trying to figure out what to do, as we were scared any movement would trigger this thing to come at us. Looking at it somehow, I knew it was stronger than its slim body let on. Eventually, we decided to walk slower back to our vehicle in the parking lot. But as we got up, its head didn't even notice us. Before it had looked over at us, and while it froze us, it simply just looked away. Now as we slowly walked away and began the 200-yard slow walk back, the front green belt was larger than the one in the back. It felt a bit faster than our time waiting, but this time we watched the back wall as if our eyes were glued on it. We eventually made it back to the vehicle and quickly got out of there. Kay dropped me off at my house and went home. I went inside and immediately told my father, and he, being a man who is a believer in some stuff most wouldn't consider to be nothing more than fantasy, so he believed me, and went upstairs to get his handgun and machete. And if I'm being honest, I knew this was exactly what he was gonna do. I wanted him to do it, because I was mad at that thing for making me scared, and I wanted to make it go away permanently. So I went upstairs to get my Bowie knife I used for camping, and my brother got his gun. However, he was more reluctant and skeptical. After we got what we wanted, we got into the car and drove to the park that isn't even a half a mile away. Me and my father got out. However, my brother thought we were being silly, so he stayed inside the car. My father immediately broke out into a fast walk with a machete strapped to his back and a handgun on his hip, while I followed behind with my knife in my pants. To this day, I don't know why he brought the machete or why I brought a knife. We got up to the park and see the thing again, just standing there in the same place. My father starts to walk faster as I attempt to keep pace, telling him to slow down, as I didn't want to get too close if we had the gun. As we got within 40 feet of it, it looked over at us and took a slow step into the bushes and disappeared. And out of nowhere, a man and his dog came out. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, it must have been the guy's shadow, and the dog must have been crawling on the ground. However, this man was short and rather husky. The dog didn't really act like a dog. As we were walking, the man quickly stopped us, saying something along the lines of, "Hello, how are you tonight? It sure is nice out." And my father just tried to shrug him off with some poor excuse about losing something back there. But the dude kept asking questions about what it was and saying he could help. Now I don't want to sound like we're rude, but the level of pushing this was akin to a bad salesman. Like he didn't really want us back there, so he kept trying to talk. Now finally, we get him to go, and we go to the spot we both saw it, and we found nothing. No footprints of anything, or evidence of anything even being there. We head back to the car with my father saying he saw it and believed me. And he spoke his frustration of the man who stopped us. We ignored the jokes made by my unbelieving brother and headed to bed. It took me a while to sleep, I'll admit it. However, in the morning, Kay came over and told us what he had done after he dropped me off. He said he also told his father, and his father, being president of the HOA, decided to check a camera that was pointed at that wall. However, it was only a motion camera, so it would only activate with motion, and the video would automatically delete after some time. But he and his father said they saw the camera on, and it was looking at the spot we had witnessed the thing, and that the next thing they saw was us coming up to the spot, and then the man and his dog in that order. He said the man and his dog came out of nowhere